Okay, so guys, imagine a world where if you own a piece of something, you get to decide its future.
Huh.
That's kind of the idea behind Cardano.
Yeah.
It's this blockchain platform that's been, getting attention because of how they do things, especially with like governance.
Mm-hmm.
And things got really interesting with the Plomin hard fork.
Yeah, Plomin's really remarkable
Oh, yeah.
because it takes Cardano beyond just being about decentralized transactions. And it's
Right.
like pushing the limits of how we make decisions in this blockchain world.
Okay, I'm intrigued already, but
Yeah.
I need like a little refresher.
Okay.
Can you remind us how Cardano was governed like before this big change?
Sure. So before Plomin Cardano relied on a more traditional structure, you
Huh.
had the Cardano Foundation, IOG, which is the development company behind Cardano,
Right.
and a group of like core developers, and they basically steered the ship.
So even though like the transactions on Cardano were already decentralized?
The actual decision making was still pretty centralized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Plomin really is a game changer.
Oh, yeah, big time.
But before we get into that, um, I have to ask, when we talk about decentralized governance,
Right.
what does that even mean, like, for someone who's not a blockchain expert?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Um, in simple terms, imagine like a company where every shareholder gets an equal vote on the big decisions, no matter like how many shares they own.
Okay.
That's basically decentralized governance.
Gotcha.
And in Cardano's case, it means that everyone who holds ADA, that's Cardano's cryptocurrency,
Right.
they have a voice in how the platform evolves.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does Plomin, like, actually make this happen?
Well, Plomin introduces what's called an on-chain governance model.
All right.
Think of it this way. Instead of decisions being made behind closed doors,
Yeah.
they're now made through a voting system that's built directly into the Cardano blockchain itself. So
Mhm.
everything's out in the open.
Oh, yeah.
It's transparent. It's permanent.
Interesting. And this on-chain aspect,
Yeah.
does that mean the whole process is, like, more secure or tamper-proof?
Yeah, exactly. That's like one of the key benefits because it's all on the blockchain. You can't just like go back and change the rules or the outcomes of votes.
Right.
Creates a level of trust and immutability that's like super important in a decentralized system.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So what kind of decisions can people actually vote on with this new system?
Well, for starters, they can have a say in things like transaction fees.
Okay.
You know, the small amount you pay to send ADA or the rewards you get for staking your ADA, which is essentially like earning interest by helping secure the network.
Right.
All those technical details that can have a big impact on how Cardano works.
So no more relying on like a small group to decide those things?
Nope.
It's kind of like open source software development, right?
Yeah.
Where like a wider community can contribute to making the software better.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it's not just about tweaking like the technical detail. The Plomin hard fork also gives the community control over Cardano's treasury funds.
Wait, the treasury?
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It is.
So what does that mean in practical terms?
So we're talking about a significant chunk of ADA that's set aside to fund the development and growth of the Cardano ecosystem.
Okay.
With Plomin, the community gets to decide how that money is spent.
Wow.
Which projects get funding, which areas of development get prioritized. It's a huge shift in power.
I can see why people are calling this like a game changer.
Yeah,
It's almost like turning Cardano into a democratically run organization.
that's a good way to put it.
But I have to admit, like, I'm a little skeptical.
Okay,
What if the community makes a bad decision?
right.
Doesn't it require like a lot of technical knowledge to participate in these votes?
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that is a concern with any decentralized system.
Yeah.
But Cardano has some interesting mechanisms in place to mitigate those risks.
Like with medalliers?
Well, remember how you mentioned open source software? A lot of open source projects are incredibly successful, even though they're governed by a decentralized community.
Right.
Part of the reason is that they attract talented developers who are really passionate about the project.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So you're saying that by empowering the community,
Right.
Cardano could actually attract more skilled developers and innovators who are aligned with its vision.
Exactly. And that can lead to better decision-making in the long run.
Right.
Plus, Cardano isn't just throwing everyone into the deep end.
Right.
They've created a system of delegated representatives, or DREPs for short.
DREPs.
Yeah.
Right? I've heard that term thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, so think of DREPs as community leaders who specialize in understanding Cardano's complex technical details.
Okay.
They act as representatives for those who might not have the time or expertise to participate in every vote.
So if I own some ADA, but I'm not like a blockchain expert.
Right.
I can choose a DREP who aligns with my views to vote on my behalf.
That's the idea. Okay.
It's a way to ensure that everyone has a voice, even if they can't dedicate hours to researching every proposal.
That sounds pretty fair, but what's to stop just anyone from becoming a DREP? Are there any qualifications?
Nope. It's totally open. Anyone can register to become a DREP, which honestly is one of the things that makes it so exciting.
So how did this monumental shift actually happen? Walk us through the timeline of the Plomin hard fork.
Okay, so the key date to remember is January 29th, 2025.
Okay.
That's when the upgrade was successfully implemented and Cardano officially transitioned to this new era of decentralized governance.
I bet there was some lead up to that, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they have to get everyone on board with this radical idea?
You bet. There was a whole voting period
Huh.
where ADA holders could signal their support for the Plomin upgrade, kind of like a referendum.
Okay.
And they hit that critical threshold on January 24th, paving the way for the hard fork to be activated a few days later.
Hold on, hard fork.
Oh,
You're
right.
going to have to explain that one.
I'm familiar with the term,
Right.
but imagine our listeners hearing this for the first time.
Good point. A hard fork is basically a major update to a blockchain
Okay.
that creates a permanent split from the previous version. Think of it like a fork in the road.
Right.
It often introduces new features or rules, like in this case with Plomin's new governance model.
Okay.
And once a hard fork happens, everyone has to upgrade to the new version to keep participating.
Gotcha. Now it clicks,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing things went smoothly on the 29th.
Yeah.
No blockchain drama.
Actually, the transition was surprisingly smooth.
Oh, wow.
The Cardano Foundation, who play a pretty central role.
Right.
They officially confirmed that the Plomin hard fork went off without a hitch. They even highlighted how crucial the community's involvement was in making it happen.
I love that.
Yeah.
So now that we're a bit past the launch,
Yeah.
what are some of the impacts you're seeing from this grand experiment in blockchain democracy?
Well, it's early days,
Yeah.
but one of the most obvious impacts is enhanced decentralization.
Okay, we've talked a lot about that word,
Right.
but paint a picture for our listener. What does this increased decentralization actually look like in practice?
Think of it this way. Before Plomin, Cardano was like a company with a board of directors making all the big decisions.
Okay.
Now it's more like a cooperative where every member has a say. It's truly one of the most decentralized blockchains out there, not just in how transactions are validated, but also in how it's governed.
Okay, I'm starting to see the potential here. It's like taking the core idea of blockchain,
Right.
decentralization,
Yeah.
and applying it to decision-making itself. But isn't there a risk that things could become chaotic or inefficient
Sure.
with so many voices at the table?
That's a valid concern, and to be fair, there are challenges.
Yeah.
Ensuring the decision-making process remains efficient is definitely at the top of the list.
Right, because you don't want to end up with endless debates and gridlock,
Exactly.
especially when dealing with complex technical issues.
Exactly. Finding ways to streamline the process, make it easier for people to participate and educate the community will be crucial for its long-term success.
It's almost like you're trying to build a whole new form of digital democracy. Are there any real-world examples we can look to for guidance on how to make this work?
That's an interesting question. I think there are parallels to how open source software projects are run, but even those have their limitations, to be honest. We're all kind of figuring this out as we go, and that's what makes it so fascinating.
That's true. This whole thing feels like an experiment in progress. What are some of the other potential downsides you're keeping an eye on?
Well, besides the efficiency aspect,
Right.
there's also the risk of voter apathy or low turnout. It's a classic problem in any democracy, even in the digital world.
Yeah.
If people don't think their vote matters or the system is too complex, they might just tune out.
It's like how a lot of people don't vote in local elections.
Yeah.
They don't see how it affects them directly. How do you prevent that from happening in Cardano's ecosystem?
I think a big part of it is education, making sure people understand the power they have and how their participation can shape the future of Cardano. There's also a lot of work being done on making the whole voting process more user-friendly and accessible.
So it's about making people feel like active participants, not just passive observers.
Exactly. But ultimately, I think the biggest hurdle is going to be finding that sweet spot between decentralization and efficiency.
Right.
Too much of one and you lose the benefits of the other. It's a delicate balance.
I can see that, but I'm trying to stay optimistic.
Yeah.
What excites you the most about the potential of this model? What are you hoping to see happen as it evolves?
One of the things that really gets me fired up is the potential for a more inclusive and diverse ecosystem.
Okay.
With traditional governance structures, it's often the loudest voices or those with the most resources who have the most influence.
Right.
But with Cardano, anyone with ADA, regardless of their background or location, can have a say. It's about leveling the playing field.
Like the early days of the internet, where anyone could create a website or share their ideas. A real sense of possibility.
Right. And that can lead to more innovation and better solutions because you're drawing on a much wider pool of perspectives and experiences.
Okay. I'm feeling inspired.
Great.
But I also have to ask,
Yeah.
are we putting too much faith in the wisdom of the crowd? What if the community makes a decision that ends up harming Cardano in the long run?
That's a very valid point. And there's no guarantee that decentralized governance will always lead to the best outcomes. But I think it's important to remember that this is all still very new.
Right.
We're witnessing the birth of a new way of making decisions in the digital age. And there will be growing pains along the way.
That's true. We're all learning as we go. But let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
I know our listener is eager to hear about how they can get involved.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Right.
can you give us a sneak peek at some of the resources we'll be covering in the next segment?
Absolutely. In the final part, we'll be diving into specific websites, communities, and even initiatives where folks can learn more, get them, connect with other Cardano enthusiasts, and even participate in shaping the platform's future.
Okay.
We'll cover everything from the Cardano Foundation website, which is a great starting point, to Project Catalyst, where you can actually propose and vote on projects that will receive funding from Cardano's treasury.
That sounds awesome.
Yay!
I'm already eager to dive into those resources. But for now, let's pause here.
Okay.
This feels like a good cliffhanger to leave our listener on. Join us for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll get practical and explore all those exciting ways to get involved in the world of Cardano and decentralized governance. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Cardano's decentralized governance.
Yeah.
We've covered the what and the why.
Right.
Now let's get practical.
Exactly.
And answer the question that's probably on your mind.
If this whole idea of decentralized governance on Cardano has you intrigued,
Yeah.
where do you even begin?
Right? It can feel overwhelming to jump into a new ecosystem,
Yeah.
especially one that's like pushing the boundaries like this.
Yeah, I totally agree. But the good news is
Yeah.
the Cardano community is like incredibly welcoming. And there are tons of resources out there to guide you. A great starting point is the Cardano Foundation website.
The Cardano Foundation.
Yeah.
They're kind of like the guardians of the ecosystem, right?
Exactly. They have a ton of information on everything from like the basics of blockchain technology
Okay.
to the specifics of how Cardano's governance model works. Think of it as your one-stop shop for all things Cardano.
Perfect for those who like to start with the official sources.
Yeah,
But what about for someone who's more of a hands-on learner?
right.
Are there ways to actually experience this decentralized governance in action?
Absolutely. That's where Project Catalyst comes in.
Project Catalyst.
Yeah,
Did you mention that earlier?
I did. It's one of the most exciting things happening in the Cardano world right now.
Oh, really?
It's a platform where anyone can propose projects that they think would benefit the ecosystem.
So it's not just about voting on technical stuff.
Yep.
You can actually submit your own ideas for how to use Cardano's treasury funds.
That's right. And then the community votes on which projects they think deserve funding. It's a real-world example of decentralized decision-making in action.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
It really empowers people to become active participants in shaping the future of Cardano.
Yeah.
I bet it attracts a lot of creative and passionate folks.
Oh, definitely. It's become a hub for innovators and entrepreneurs who believe in the power of decentralized technology.
I'm starting to see why you're so enthusiastic about this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's not just about the tech itself.
Right.
It's about the community and the potential it unlocks.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that anyone can participate.
Right.
You don't need to be a blockchain expert or a coding wizard.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an idea that you think could benefit Cardano,
Yeah.
Project Catalyst gives you a platform to share it with the world.
I love that it reminds me of those early crowdfunding platforms, but with a focus on building a better decentralized future.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the Cardano Foundation website for the official info project catalyst for the hands-on experience.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other resources you'd recommend, especially for our techie listeners who might want to go even deeper?
Yeah, for those who really want to get into the nitty-gritty,
Right.
IOG, the company behind Cardano,
Right.
they publish tons of detailed technical documentation.
So if you want to understand like the nuts and bolts of the Plomin hard fork,
Yeah,
you can actually go and read the code and the explanations behind the design choices.
precisely. It's all out in the open.
Yeah.
Cardano takes transparency very seriously.
That's pretty cool. You don't see that level of openness in many other tech projects. It definitely builds trust and credibility.
It does. And speaking of community,
Yeah.
if you're looking to connect with other Cardano enthusiasts, there are countless forums,
Yeah.
Telegram groups, Discord servers, you name it.
It sounds like there's a whole vibrant community out there, ready to welcome newcomers with open arms.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the most supportive and passionate communities I've ever encountered, whether you're a seasoned blockchain developer or just starting to learn about Cardano, there's a place for you.
It's amazing to see how this technology is bringing people together from all over the world, united by this shared vision of a more decentralized future.
It truly is inspiring, and it's just the beginning. Who knows what amazing things this community will create in the years to come.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty optimistic after this deep dive.
Yeah,
I've learned so much, and I'm genuinely excited to see where Cardano goes from here.
me too. It's been a pleasure exploring this with you and our listener.
Before we sign off,
Yeah,
I want to emphasize that this is just a starting point.
right.
We've given you a taste of what Cardano is all about, but the real journey begins when you start exploring for yourself.
Don't just listen. Participate.
Yeah.
Dive into those resources, connect with the community, and maybe even contribute your own ideas.
The future of Cardano, and maybe even the future of decentralized governance itself, is in your hands.
It is.
So what are you waiting for?
Until next time.